Hey, I'm Hendrik Booz, and I'm going to be your son or daughter's English 11, but also dual enrollment English 111 and 112 teacher for Northern Virginia Community College's obviously dual enrollment college courses this year. So I wanted to introduce you to myself, my pandemic hair right here, my dining room, our TV room behind us, and just give you a brief overview of what you can expect from this year if you weren't able to make it to back to school night on Thursday. So let's flip the screen around here and get started. So one thing I'm going to tell you right now is that there's a form that you can fill out, and you can access these slides in Google Classroom, and I'll show you exactly how to do that in a moment. But I want to make sure that you give me some sort of information for your son or daughter in case you weren't able to make it. Anyway, these are my teachers. I have my lovely wife down here, pre-pandemic beard and everything, Kelly. She normally works in DC, and so now she works upstairs, and we switch back and forth. This is my kindergartner William on his first Zoom call with his Barbie dolls here. He is obviously taking virtual kindergarten, which I just don't even understand. This is after school one day, taking some Slurpee break. This is Madeline's first COVID test so that we could see my mom and dad. Here's William getting wet at the beach when we kind of went camping one day. Pre-pandemic, this is what I used to look like. Post-pandemic, this is what I look like right now. And again, I'm going to be your dual enrollment teacher. So I typically teach at Marshall High School. That's my base school. But we're going to be doing obviously Tuesday evenings from 8 to 10 for dual enrollment. I am also the IBHL2 or higher level English teacher for seniors at Marshall, the CAS coordinator, which is something for IB that deals with service. And then I teach a class called Theory of Knowledge, which is kind of epistemology and things like that. I'm from here. I was born in Fairfax Hospital. I went to Fairfax Villa Elementary School. I went to Lanier. And then I went to Fairfax High School, as did my sister and her husband and a lot of other people. And I guess the more interesting thing for me is even though my mom and her two sisters and one brother all lived on the same house on Gallows Road, Fairfax County has changed the boundaries so often that all four of them went to different schools in the area. So McLean, Falls Church, Annandale, and I'm pretty sure my uncle got kicked out of school, so I'm not sure if that was a boundary change. My dad taught at Robinson for the large proportion of his career before he moved on to IT. He's very happy not to be in IT right now for obvious reasons. I went on to the University of Virginia where I got a BA/MT in American Studies and English, and then a Master's of Teaching and English Education. This is, I guess it's like my, 30-something year in Fairfax County as a person, but it's my 21st year of teaching. And so right now I live in the city of Alexandria with my kids. We love to go camping. This is a reminder of better days when we got to go to Alaska last summer and Minnesota to go camping. We love to camp. In fact, this weekend we're going to Chincoteague to get a little break from the area. We love canoeing and fishing, things like that. But mostly right now we're playing a lot of Legos. We dig up worms and go to the ponds when we can. So let's start with how you can help. The first thing is that your son or daughter is in a college course now. And so I want you to communicate with them to get their take on what's going on with their progress. I'll be sending out progress reports as stipulated by the online campus in Fairfax County. But there's also a myriad of resources. And one of the main problems with online learning as opposed to face-to-face learning is that students have to be a little bit more self-driven. It's also a positive. So if we can kind of think about that as a pro and a con, we have a Google Classroom page, and like I said, I'm going to show you that. There's the image of it down on the bottom. If you need to communicate with me, I'm WHBOOZ or Z at Fairfax County Public Schools or fcps.edu. So what does Google Classroom look like? Well, you can see that it's organized in what they call an archival fashion, or everything that's old is at the bottom, everything that's new is at the top. So let's take a look at what that looks like right now. Their Google Classroom has a stream, and if you're unfamiliar with that, every time something's posted, it comes up here. One of the students wanted to know where to find the source code for the textbook, and I gave her a link, and so this is something that we tap into all the time. They can ask whatever they need to. Classwork is organized, and this is something that they're not going to see until this week, later, tomorrow morning at 5, or tomorrow afternoon at 5 evening. The resume, which is what we're working on, and all their materials there. Introductions to class with a discussion board and what we call an overview, and then the worksheet. And then they have obviously all sorts of other information. I highly advocate that you take a look at the syllabus as per the contract that you guys have signed with Northern Virginia Community College. There are slight differences that I'll go over between Fairfax County and Northern Virginia. We also have to talk about drop dates and withdrawal dates and things like that. So everything's arranged for them here where they can go through the course and they have everything they need. So what can they expect of themselves? Well, the online campus and Northern Virginia's Community College online courses require at least 1 hour of synchronous chat is what we call it. It's Tuesday evenings as your students have voted on from 8 to 9 p.m. There'll be some interruptions from the tykes, but we're all working together on that one. And then they can expect about 5 to 6 hours of asynchronous work a week. It's probably more self-driven than they've ever had in their base schools because a lot of it is done obviously at their homes. Their directions are there, and I have started to develop a website for them to work with that too. What can they expect of me? Well, they can expect weekly feedback on their worksheets so that they know where they are, and that feedback rather are going to work towards summative assessment. So those worksheets will help them to compile a stronger resume or a stronger analysis essay. And they're going to have about 6 summative papers or large papers that account for 60% of their overall grade, and I'll explain the other 40% in a minute. So the assignment outline, we've already been through the pre-course orientation, and that occurred previous weeks. Last week and this week, we're dealing with introductions. We're starting week 3 right now with the resume. Then we'll move on to obviously the personal narrative or the college essay is a better way to look at that. So if they want to choose a college prompt from the Common Apt or the Coalition Apt or a specific college that is not using one of those 2 formats, they're welcome to do so they can kind of kill 2 proverbial birds with 1 stone. Then we're going to be dealing with a bunch of analysis essays, cause and effect, literary. The definition essay is a little bit more complex, and we'll come to that as we go toward the end of the semester. The persuasive, and then most likely the final exam will actually be a writing piece because we are unsure if we're going to be able to have in-person exams as technically stipulated by NOVA and Fairfax County because obviously of distance learning. So one of the elements that you guys may not be familiar with is just how different the online platform is, and we don't mean in the sense of the springtime platform that Fairfax County is trying to put together along with all the other school systems in the nation, but the overall idea of an online course. An online course obviously has all of these pros with a lot of flexibility, potentially access to more information, and here obviously they're going to get college credit if they do well, potentially 6 credits for their college education or their transcript. The one element is that, especially for students who have not experienced this before, it takes an increased amount of personal accountability and time management. And that's something I really would like them to work on this year, but also an element of proactivity. I don't know if you guys went to go see your college professors or teachers or anything like that, instructors, but I didn't start doing so until sometimes I was in trouble my first or second year. And then I realized just how beneficial office hours and kind of reaching out was, and that became a lot more apparent to me the more I met with them. And so some of that proactivity is something we want to kind of develop in students taking dual enrollment courses or online courses in general. So what are the benefits? Well, obviously they can earn 3 credits for English 111 and 3 credits for 112. Those follow them to their eventual college careers. So if they earn a C or a B or an A, that actually gets transferred into their overall undergraduate GPA. The other element here is that this is the first year where we're offering this course to juniors, and while they placed in based on their English and math scores, it's still a college course. It's still meant for students who are 18, 19 and have clearly moved through an entire high school education. So they're not going to get necessarily as much feedback on sentence level material like commas and semicolons and things like that. We're looking more holistically at their writing, their ideas, their analysis. But if they do well in these courses and so choose, they can then move on to take 200 level literature courses that are going to be a lot more similar to a college course in literature that you may have taken. Right now we're dealing with English 111 and 112, which are composition courses or writing in general. So holistically, what are the benefits? Well, obviously I've already mentioned that idea of personal accountability and some sort of proactivity. There's also a great deal of collaboration. They may have seen a lot of this in the spring in their base schools, but we use breakout rooms pretty readily, and I might not necessarily monitor them. So we're trying to work on a concept of community, one, but also revision, so that they're giving each other feedback and not just saying, oh, I really liked your paper, it was really, really good. That kind of vapid commentary is typically seen in revision in high school, but we're not necessarily at the higher levels in high school or necessarily in college. And so that's really what we're working on, self-driven revision with a little bit of collaboration with their peers. And then instead of just looking at and analyzing a book and maybe looking online as to what somebody thinks about a poem, they're going to be dealing a little bit more with analysis of real life or practical kind of concepts, modern issues, current events, things like that. So what are those differences between the two courses? Well, Nova has a whole grade grading scale. So Nova's grades are whole grades A, B, C, D. They have no pluses or minuses. Obviously, if a student has an 87, say, in Fairfax County, it may show up as a B plus on their Fairfax County transcript, but it will show up as a B on the Northern Virginia Community College VCCS Virginia Community College System transcript. And that's something that they need to know now. So the major topics that we're going to deal with are an element of deeper thinking or analysis, reflection, and then selecting ideas themselves. Oftentimes kind of coming up with a concept is something that is handed to students in high school. In college, they're meant to actually select their own. Ideally, we're also looking at, yes, sentence level, but more structural levels or the architecture of a paper. Kids often forget about topic sentences and transitions, so it's hard to kind of jump from island to island or paragraph to paragraph. We're going to try to help them with their flow. Obviously, that flow then means that they have to analyze or break down. That's what an analysis means, breaking something up into its component parts so they can organize their essays and support their ideas. Then they're also pretty apt to look at the first page in a search engine when they look at resources, but we're going to investigate and evaluate resources that they may find. Ideally, we're going to be working with primarily MLA or Modern Language Association citations or parenthetical references, the parentheses with page numbers at the end of a text. And so that's where they're going to incorporate not only citations, but also the actual textual concepts or support. And then thinking about their audience, the personal narratives may be a little bit more informal, say, than an analysis essay. And so trying to think about the purpose of what they're writing. So every week we have an agenda. They're all posted into the Google Classroom site that that you saw. We work with Portrait of a Graduate from Fairfax County to try to kind of hone the whole person, and so that it's not always burdened by just the talk of Bedford Reader or their textbook and exit tickets and things like that. So how do we set up class? I mentioned that the final essays, 6 of which they will have as summative pieces, measure 15 to 20 pages total, and they're 60% of a student's grade. Every week they have a worksheet. There are 9 per quarter, and those are worth 20%. So you can do the math there, a little bit more than 2% per worksheet. So if they miss one, it's not a huge deal. Weekly chat, again, they're expected to show up every Tuesday. If they do not, they have to kind of reach out to me beforehand. If they are late, they may not, or if they don't attend or don't watch the recording, they may not earn credit for that chat. Well, what are these weekly worksheets? They're holistically graded, and so they're meant to complete the work, obviously, but also meant to develop or elaborate on their writing. And so we're trying to make sure that they're paying attention to conventions like commas and semicolons and phrasing and punctuation, mechanics, things like that, but also that they're actually completing it holistically and consistently. So that would be an A, where they're doing what we ask of them. The directions are very detailed, and they need to follow those directions, looking at the overview each week, something that some students don't do and actually suffer from at the ends of each of the semesters. What happens in chat? Well, chat means that they are engaged, that they are coming up with their own ideas, they're mentioning references to the reading, and that would be an A. You don't automatically earn an A for showing up. That would be more like a C if they show up and don't say anything, because a lot of times the breakout sessions or the breakout rooms that Blackboard Collaborate Ultra uses are going to be places where I want them to feel free for me not to drop in. So they're sharing there and then bringing that back to the whole room. If they're not showing up, there's a problem in Fairfax County. If they don't show up within a week, I have to contact the online campus and they may be dropped. If they don't show up in 10 days, they'll get a letter home. And if they don't show up in 2 weeks, we may have to drop them from the course itself. So I don't know if you've heard of Portrait of a Graduate. It was kind of an initiative in the middle of the teens in 2015, I believe. But the Portrait of a Graduate has these 5 kind of goals, and it's supposed to start in kindergarten, work all the way up through 12th grade. And so what we're going to be focusing on right now is collaboration. Obviously, communication is both oral and written, and this class heavily focuses on the written aspect. But this week and the early weeks, we're really trying to work together to create a community and collaborate with one another. to be an ethical and global citizen means to think of others, but also to kind of think of more broad concepts instead of just, thinking of our area, thinking about how something may affect the East Coast and then America and then the Americas and then Western Hemisphere and kind of outside from there. Obviously, critical thinking is an aspect of this course, but also creative thinking. That's the idea that they're coming up with their own ideas. And then resiliency and goal direction is something that's going to be key for this online course because they do have to have time management. Some things due every Friday, typically a preliminary discussion board post so that their peers have some time over the weekend to think about it or read and write on that. And then every Tuesday morning by 7 a.m. they have something due, a weekly worksheet that adds to that. So you have access to the syllabus, and again, you guys can click on these links. This slideshow is available in Google Classroom. The syllabus goes over everything that you need to know for Northern Virginia. It also has course objectives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At the very top, you're going to see it says DXXX. They are enrolled in Northern Virginia Community College, and so the Northern Virginia Community College will assign them a specific course number that'll go on their transcript. I mentioned earlier drop dates and withdrawal dates. Drop dates means there's no heavy paperwork or anything due at all, and that would be soon. That's in roughly 2.5 weeks. The 3rd of October, they need to contact me, but then I will forward them on to their guidance counselor if this is just not the course for them. A withdrawal date, which would mean that they are either withdrawal passing or withdrawal failing, is the 1st of December. And so if they're not doing very well, I will have communicated with you by then, but they have the option of withdrawing by December 1st, which does mean that a W or a WF, withdrawal failing, if they are failing, will go on their college transcript. And that's something I want to make sure that they understand. Final exam date, we just don't even know what's going on there. And our course ends in the semester on the 22nd of January. Students must earn a D or higher to continue on in English 112. Obviously, if a student's earning a D, we're going to advise that he or she choose maybe a different path, moving back to the base school. But it is, your student's proclivity or choice to continue on in this course. We also have a calendar, and that helps to keep students on track. This is all available in Google Classroom. I've highlighted in yellow their major writings or their major assessments, those 6 that I mentioned earlier. And so it kind of breaks down, just like your college syllabi may have, the week by week kind of deal for class. So how you can further help, there's a link here about sleep. Sleep's super important. My sister talks about this all the time as a executive coach. Some patience with your students. They're going to be complaining because it's online. They're online all day, almost every day but Mondays, but maybe helping to understand kind of where they are. Some trust that they're doing what they need to, so making sure that you're keeping on top of some of what they need, but giving them some of that emotional support, and then some teamwork. We're all working on this together. My grandmother called it the GGG method, be good, giving, and gracious. So please make sure that we are trying to be as understanding as we can. We know that these kids are online for a long time. On Tuesdays, I teach from roughly 8 till 5, and then back on from 8 till 10. So long day for me on Tuesday, and I'm sure it's a long day for your students as well. One quick thing I just want to point out to you where you can find these resources. As I mentioned, this is in Google Classroom. And if you click on just Google Classroom, it takes you to Stream, go to Classwork. At the bottom, these logistics are here. Here is back to school night for dual enrollment, and these are the slides that I have shown you there. So I hope this was a quick synopsis of what we're going over in class. If you need to reach out to me, there's my Bitmoji that Fairfax County wanted me to make. It's whboos@fcps.edu. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll wave goodbye. Have a wonderful evening or a wonderful day.